Yeah, so I've got a question. You mentioned using this system as like an injury prevention type tool. So you say you had 2 injuries last night, and you're sort of upset you didn't sort of spot them earlier. Well, you know where they came from. How many variables are you sort of using to sort of predict injury? I know you mentioned muscle soreness and looking at sleep patterns. But obviously, there's 101 different things going on in a player. How valuable do you think it is to use it as like an injury prevention type tool to flag someone up when you think that maybe they're coming up to an injury?
It's injury prevention and overtraining. So you're still looking at the two because normally they go hand in hand. So yeah, the variables that we're using is the amount of training time, which is great. We can log the minutes. It's important about the amount of minutes in the high intensity zones because that's the most invasive on the athlete. But then it's also linking that to then what session did the coach deliver. And because the software's got a session where the coach puts in the type of session they did, because you know, the tactics of the game could be that your right back's making big overlapping runs in this particular drill to play crosses because you want to get your centre forward hitting goals. So all of a sudden you didn't realise, actually, hang on, he's doing 30-metre sprints here and he's done a load here, whipping them in and more. So you're able to link in those sorts of, you know, bringing in those elements so you can see all the effects on the athlete. So coaching, how much sleep they've had, the muscle soreness, the strength conditioning programs, whether the field training drills, weight training drills, all the elements are there that you can try and then trace back through.
So would you have like individual zones for each player? Because obviously some players are more capable of recovering quicker. So the flagging system mentioned earlier, don't you? Red flag and that sort of thing. Are they individually based on the same player? Because I suppose one person's muscle soreness could be, I don't know, 5, another person could that's a 2 or something.
So it's exactly what we do. I was saying earlier, there's some players who muscle soreness is on a 1 to 10. Some players might never give you more than 1 as a score. So if they give you 3, that's a red flag. Other players might think the 5's a completely manageable muscle soreness to go out and train with. So it's one of those. You go back over and you say, right, well, you know, this player's hydration, although you might set a particular score as a dehydration marker, some players may never get close to it. So if they even get towards it, you know, then that could be a red flag for them. So you can set individual red flags for particular players for whatever level you think applies to them. And the more data you have on them, the more accurate these things.
And is that more important than comparing across players because their thresholds are different?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to compare across players. Like obviously you can have squad averages for certain things, but you've got to look at the players as an individual. I think that's kind of one of the main benefits of having a system like this, and this is the way things are going, is you've got to treat individual players as individual athletes with their own thresholds and stuff.
Can I just ask you how closely you work with the medical part of that system? Do you use the medical part at all? So are your physios, your doc, is he using it, and you've got, you know, vision specialists, podiatrists and everybody else putting into it? It's the thing, I'm at Manchester United, by the way. The thing that I think we've found is that there isn't a single point of contact for the players. There isn't a one view of the player, and I think what we've struggled with is, like you said, a spreadsheet over here that if the head physio hasn't looked at that spreadsheet, there's a danger that he hasn't seen something that you've seen as a coach, or possibly the other way around, more likely, that he's been in to see the masseur and said, you know, I've got a bit of a pain here or whatever, and that information hasn't been passed to you guys who are then training him hard. And I think that's what we've missed. We've missed that this one view of it, which is what we're trying to address now. So are all of your medics involved and all of your specialists or consultants that you have involved in putting information into this system?
Large, I mean, the number of specialists, we are looking at getting the portals to dial into it. I mean, we don't have excessive numbers, but like, for example, the nutritionists and people like that, we are looking at what areas of them to dial in and enter their information as well. And I think one of the things the system does is it's more efficient communication. So, like, one of the main resistances you'll get is people will say, well, we do still talk to each other, you know, we don't want to stop talking to each other, we're all still working together kind of thing. But
you know, if you're out on the training ground and somebody's back in...
Yeah, I mean, there's even things that I believe which we haven't really looked into doing yet, is that an email can be sent if a particular alert is triggered, so you can have your groups and say, right, well, maybe someone who's not on site might be interested to know in you know, things that happen, so the nutritionists might be interested to know in some body fat increase or in terms of hydration thing, and so we can trigger it so they get emails, so they are in the loop, so it makes communication a lot more efficient and